So, welcome to this presentation, this little conversation we'll have around core beliefs. And the aim is to intersect spirituality with the psychology of this entity called core beliefs. Now, what are core beliefs? They are the beliefs that people cherish the most deeply. Usually, they will develop from our childhood experiences, then they will be further compounded by a reenactment of such experiences. Oftentimes, core beliefs, they are inflexible, they are rigid, they are incredibly sensitive to being challenged. So it's just like a subconscious narrative that silently and quietly runs the life of many people who are unaware of it. Now, core beliefs could be positive and could be negative. It could be positive for someone who believes that there's nothing I touch that would not turn to God. Like somebody who firmly believes that I have a Midas touch kind of core belief. And you just find that they do things and it just explodes in all the positive directions. And it could be someone who has a core belief of I am not likable, and you will just find that they are repulsive to everybody regardless of how much they try. Now, the negative ones are called limiting beliefs. That's my interest because that is the one I aim to challenge when I sit with clients in therapy. And limiting beliefs are deeply held negative thoughts or assumptions. So it's an assumption, it doesn't have to be true. It's just an assumption that has been built over time and is buried deeply within the subconscious that most people are not even aware that is running their lives. So assumptions about oneself that can be considered a core element of many mental health issues. Really, it is at the core of most mental health issues because they will significantly influence our behaviors, they will influence our emotions and our perceptions, often preventing individuals from reaching their full potentials and contributing to conditions like anxiety, depression, and self-esteem. Now, it would grossly influence perceptions in many ways. And as it influences perception, the emotional reaction we have to everyday experiences is altered by the perception. It's like I'm wearing a pair of blue tinted glasses. Everything I see is tinted blue. Why? Because I'm wearing something that is altering my perception. And then there's someone else who is wearing pink, and as far as that person is concerned, life is pink. So these core beliefs are like those pair of tinted glasses that colors the way we see life. Now, the way we see life, the perception we take out of life determines the kind of emotional response we would have to life experience, determine the kind of thought patterns we would have, would ultimately now determine the kind of behavioral manifestation we'll have. Take, for instance, someone who already has a core belief of I am not important or I am not worth much. And this goes for an event, and there is someone who is influential who steps on the toes of this individual believes that he or she is not worth much, and the influential person did not even bother to say as much as sorry. Now, driven by this flawed perception of I am not worth much, for the person that will just further confirm, you see, I already believed that I'm not worth much. Now, bear in mind, these are not really conscious beliefs. They're just very silent, running many people's life. So the person believes he or she is not worth much. What does the person feel if I was really that important? That's what the person thinks. If I was really that important, would he or she step on my toes without even having the dignity of saying sorry? And then backed up with that thought, what's the emotion? Of course, it's going to be sadness. And then based on what trauma response the person has built over the years, the sadness can then manifest as anger, so it lashes out at this person, or can manifest as depression. So it goes away from an event that is meant to be joyful and goes away sad, sullen, depressed. So it further just reinforces the cycle. So it's a vicious cycle that keeps going around. I am not worth much. My worth is not really that important. And they just see that it keeps playing out in their own lives. Where did we start from? We started from a altered perception that is deeply rooted in a negative core belief. Now imagine somebody who has a core belief of I am likable, I am worth something, and experiences the same thing. Someone steps on, on his or her toe. Possibilities of thoughts could be, okay, maybe he or she did not see, or maybe this influential person is quite clumsy, regardless of how influential he or she is. Or maybe the person really had a bad day and he wasn't really looking at where he was going to. So now, what are the possible behavioral manifestation? Of course, this person is not really sitting with negative emotions. Just see it as just something that happens, and is not um, fueling such an experience with negative thought patterns, which are called automatic thought patterns. People just go there without really being conscious of the way they are thinking. So, what are the possible behavioral manifestations from such an appropriate core belief? It could be that you would probably just call the person, "Oh, you stepped on my toe," and that wasn't really a nice thing to do. I think you should have apologized. That's a better way to go about it. Now, the influential person may have apologized or not apologized, but at least the victim, quote and unquote, in this case, lives from such an event feeling good about himself, that he was able to assert himself. He was able to express some form of autonomy without making himself a victim of circumstances or a victim of life experiences. Now, our core needs really that would form the basis for either positive or negative core beliefs are four. Therefore, it's a need for worth, to feel that we are worth something. It's a need for love, to know that we are loved. It's a need for innate goodness, to believe that I am a good person. In the depth of my being, I am a good person, regardless of whatever it is I may struggle with, regardless of any challenge I may struggle with, be it addiction, be it depression, be it anxiety. But at the core of my being, I believe I'm a good person. And it's also a need for safety, to believe that the world is a safe place, to believe that I am safe, I am kept in the arms of God, that wherever I go to, I would experience safety. Within the core of my own house, I would experience safety. And within the core of my own self, I feel safety. So those are the four core human needs. Now, negative beliefs will then come and taint this. So people have negative core beliefs of, I am not worthy. And the variety of expressions of such are, I am not good enough. The varieties of such expressions are, I am a failure, or I cannot change, or I will never succeed. Everyone else is better than me. There's no point in trying in life. So those are those who are perfectionistics, or those who are just paralyzed by the fear of trying. It's rooted in an innate challenge of their own sense of worth. Okay? Now, there's the other one of, it's my fault. It's my fault many times will be rooted in the challenge of the innate goodness of an individual. I mean, whose fault is it that things go bad? It is a bad person, quote and unquote, or unquote. So they could have subset manifestations of this, like, I always get things wrong, or I need to try harder. So they push and push and push and push and push themselves till they break something, either mentally or physically. I have to help everyone, so they make themselves the walkover keepers. So at the expense of their own comfort, they will keep still pushing out, pushing out, pushing out, without even being aware of what it is that is driving them. Or they could have thoughts of, I am selfish to think about myself, because who thinks about themselves at the detriment of other people? Of course, it's a bad person. So that is challenging their innate goodness. Or they may have a feeling of, I have to be perfect. I have to be perfect could also be a subset of somebody who is unsure of his own sense of worth. So they feel now in perfection, my worth is validated. In being able to do something spotlessly, cleanly, without any error, is my worth being validated. And when I can make any error, then my worth is questioned, or my innate goodness is questioned. Now, someone who has a core belief of, I am unsafe, could have expressions like, you can't trust anyone or anything. You have to be in control to survive. So those are the ones who would be caught in power tussles. This could even be someone who would want to amass all the wealth just for them to feel safe in their wealth. Who would want to also amass all of the military powers or military prowess, just so that they can feel safe in the military prowess they have. That is what happens to many of Osama bin Laden. For someone is someone we can consider. Why would someone need to do so much as he did, if not for a core innate feeling of, I am not safe, and I can only feel safe when I have arsenals at my disposal, and I can execute anybody at will. Anybody who questions my worth who questions my identity, who questions my intentions, I can eliminate them. Someone who also has this core belief of I am safe could also have expressions like you should never be vulnerable. So as such, they never let their guard down. And when they do let their guard down, there's so much fear of am I safe? Would I be taken advantage of? Then the fourth one is someone who believes that I am not lovable, that is challenging the core need of being loved. So nobody wants me, nobody understands me, I am a burden to others, people hate me, I'm better off alone. So rather than seek for help, rather than seek for connection, they will rather withdraw. So those are the core negative beliefs that will drive most people day to day. So now there's something called the core belief cycle. How do these core beliefs, how does it drive the way we experience life on a day to day? Core beliefs, as we said earlier, is our inner belief that come from previous experiences, many times rooted in childhood experiences. It's just that as we grow and experience more of life, it's like a reenactment of such. For someone who from childhood has been told that it's A plus or nothing, it's A plus or nothing, and goes through life with that anxiety of I must get A plus or I am not worth much, and then gets a B minus and comes home and is still the same response. It has just further reenacted that childhood perception of I am either perfect or I am not worth much. Then the beliefs would also influence the way we perceive ourselves, the world, and others. Many times they are messages from our childhood that we internalize as truth. Now, truth in this case is relative. It's a truth that is a lie that is buried deep within our subconscious. But until we're intentional about digging the depth of such lies, either in therapy or in personal work with God or in a personal reflection, just a personal journey that you're really willing to do the inner work, they will forever remain as truths and play out our life like a board of chess games. Now, these thoughts many times will these beliefs will many times influence our thoughts. Our thoughts are ideas and opinions, including the way we understand ourselves, others, and the world. Then our intentions and our expectation will many times come from our thoughts. If I believe already that I have to be perfect or I'm not worth much, with that core belief, my thoughts will be, if I do set to do a project, it must be picture perfect. If it's not picture perfect, it's not good enough. It must be picture perfect or it's not good enough. And when I do fail to make it as perfect as I expect, I beat myself down, I denigrate myself rather than see it as a learning curve. Eventually, when it repeats itself, one may become paralyzed with the fear of imperfection as to not even bother trying. Then the thoughts many times will drive our feelings. And our feelings are emotional states and internal reactions. They could be fear, they could be anger, they could be sadness, they could be joy, they could be guilt, they could be shame, they could be love, they could be disgust, they could be surprise. Now, background core belief of perfection or nothing. Perfection makes me worth something. Many times the setting out of a new project will be driven with so much fear, so much anxiety. And then when the new project is anything less than 100% perfect, it's driven by another emotion of shame, of sadness. And sadness eating could be driven as secondary emotion of anger. So I'm lashing out at everybody who did not join hands with me to make my intended project perfection. All rooted in many times a thought I'm not even aware of. Rooted again in a core belief that I have not brought to my conscious mind because it's rooted deeply in my subconscious. Then of course my feelings will then drive my actions, or a combination of both the beliefs, the thoughts, the feelings. And what are the possible actions? Possible actions then may be that I drive myself so hard to the point of breaking something, either physically or psychologically, in a bid to achieve perfection. To the point of ruining relationships in a bid to achieve perfection. Or I drive myself so hard to the point that I then experience emotional and psychological paralysis, where there's so much fear that I'm even scared of reaching out for even something that is 80% perfection because 100 is the goal. So our actions, our behaviors, our impulses, our external reactions, and the way we deal with our thoughts and our feelings is the same way that our actions plays out. Then of course the combination of the thoughts, the feelings, the actions that is rooted in our beliefs, then it becomes our daily experience. So you see, the cycle just keep going and going and going, and every experience is a reenactment of the core belief until we identify the core belief and begin to do everything possible to change such core belief. Now, challenging the core belief for somebody who wonders, okay, what is my worth? Is my worth that significant? Genesis chapter 1 verse 26 to 27 says, and God said, let us make man in our own image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heaven, over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. And God made man in his own image, and in the image of God he made them. He created them, male and female. He created them. I mean, for a child of God, for a Christian who has heard this severally in Sunday school, in church, many times they are just words that pass over our head without really getting into the depth of our heart, into the core of our being. So, and when life has really dealt us some negative hands, when trauma has really pattered our psyche and our subconscious, it may be a challenge for this Bible verse to sound like a truth. So my aim with this presentation, in addition to expounding what psychology says about core belief, is also to now expound what spirituality, in this case what the eternal truth of God's word, says about your own core belief. So you tell me that there are questions, or you question your own sense of worth, and then I remind you that he made you in the very image of the Godhead himself. Talk about worth. Talk about worth. What worth is there that is greater than the image of the Godhead himself? So I want to sow this as a seed. So while you do all of the therapy and all of the past personal work and all of the journaling work, let this be a seed and a reminder of the eternal worth that Christ placed on you when he made you and I. And now, in Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5, you know what he told Jeremiah was, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart, and I ordained you as a priest and prophet unto the nations. The truth is, you and I, there was a need before God created us. It wasn't just in heaven, just racking his brain and was one week, I need to play with some clay. Let me craft a human being and just breathe into his or her nostrils and just let me send him down to earth. No, there was a need. God had a need on earth before he said, okay, I need to make this man, this woman, and send him down to earth to fulfill the purpose. Each and every one of us is a product of God's thought. And when he made you, he said he called you good. You know, when he made everything, he said, he looked at all he made and he said it is good. So for somebody who questions his or her own innate goodness, this is also a reminder. You are a product of the thoughts and the intentions of God. Your being here is not after, it's not by chance, it's not happenstance. You're a product of the intentionality and the ingenuity of God. And when he made you, he said you were good. So regardless of the challenges you have going on that you need to work with, be it addiction, be it depression, be suicidality, be it anxiety, be it bipolar, you just name it. Do all of the physical work you have to do. Do all of the psychological work you have to do. But I tell you, by God, don't forget that he had an intention for you. So while you're peeling the layers of onions, if I can put it like that, and trying to just shelve all of the baggages of any psychological or mental health struggles you may have, remember at the core of you, when God sent you here, he said you're good. He sent you intentionally. Talk about worth. Talk about worth. I don't think it gets better than that. Okay, now this still same Jeremiah chapter 31 verse 3 says, the Lord has appeared to us in the past, saying, I have loved you with an everlasting love. I have drawn you with my loving kindness, or with my unfailing kindness. You know, for someone who has the core belief of I am not lovable, because growing up in a home where love was not demonstrated, or you had to prove you're worth something, or you sought approval, you sought love in when you do something. So it is when you've been really responsible that you get to hear I love you. Or when you've got the best of grades, that's when you get to hear I love you. This same passage is a reminder that even if your parents had challenges expressing love, because really it is what we give, we give. We cannot give what we do not have. So if your parent had challenges expressing love as it should have been done, this is another verse that I'm sowing as a seed and as a reminder that when it says he has loved you with an everlasting love, I mean on top of everlasting, there's nothing on top of it. That is the highest level of love. There's nothing more you can do that can make him love you more. And there's nothing you can do that can make him love you less. So it's still a reminder. Struggling with the addiction, get all the help you can. Struggling with the mood disorder, get all the help you can. Struggling with whatever it may be, get all the help you can. But let this seed of this eternal truth be rooted in the core of your being, that he has loved you with an everlasting love, and he has drawn you with his loving kindness, regardless of whatever hands trauma has dealt you or whatever has happened in the past. That is a lie that has proven to be a truth for decades before you believed it. The moment you are intentional about switching to come to believe the greatest truth, the truth that can never be contended for ages and eternity to come, your life begins to play out in the direction of the new truth you have embraced. So please, sow this in the very depth of your being. Now, for someone who questions their innate safety, for someone who has always felt unsafe, you can't go to bed at night, your heart is palpitating because there's just that lack of safety to be able to sleep and have a refreshing sleep, because all your life you've never known safety. It's always been one chaos or the other. I mean, once you're even in a place, chaos is about to get precipitated, because it's almost like you go through life dragging chaos with you. This verse is for you. Romans chapter 8 verse 35 to 39 says, who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall trouble or hardship or persecution or famine or nakedness or danger or sword? As it is written, for your sake we face death all day. We are considered as sheep to be slaughtered. No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus. I mean, at the core of safety is, would I wake up tomorrow alive? Or would I survive this currently trying experience? That's the core of safety, is life and death. But here he's saying, nothing will separate you from the love of God in Christ Jesus. Not death, not life. I want you to really, really sit and reflect on that. Regardless of how unsafe your life has played out. Because that core belief kept training you and ensuring that your reality matches up to the core belief you've had. This is a verse that I would want you to reflect on and begin to embrace as your new core belief. That nothing, I mean not the trauma, not the sexual abuse, not the physical abuse, not the kidnapping, you name whatever it is that has happened and has made you question your innate safety and has made you question that God has you in the very palm of his hands. Let this be a reminder that not death, not life, not principalities, no powers will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus. And still for someone who questions safety, Isaiah chapter 42 verse 3 says, when you pass through waters, I will be with you. When you pass through rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned, and the flames will not set you ablaze. I know prior to now, chances are you've passed through the waters and it seemed that God wasn't there. You passed through the rivers, it seemed that he swept you over, almost swept you over. You walked through the fire, it seemed like it burned you. Again, remember that thing I said about the pink tinted glasses. It is a perception. It is a perception. He is a God who is able to cause all things to work for good for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. So the sexual abuse, it seemed like he burnt you. No, he's still able to make something good out of it. We said the other time that it's like a potter and the clay. I mean, you can have a ball of clay that looks like a piece of shit, and you're wondering, what do we do with this trash? Let's discard it. But then give it to the potter and trust the potter and give him time and watch him make a masterpiece out of it. So regardless of what you've gone through, and it seems that like he overwhelmed you, he scorched you, that was just a flawed perception. That was a lie that seemed like a truth, and you allowed it played out because that was the core belief you held for the decades, for the longest of time. Albeit unknowingly. But now you can begin to embrace superior, high quality, pro destiny belief systems, and you see them play out in every facet of your life. Now, how do we challenge and deconstruct negative core beliefs? I've intentionally sowed some seeds of God's words that should be the core belief and the guiding principle of every child of God. In addition to that, seek therapy. Seek therapy with someone who is able to do all of the deep works, because at the core of every mental challenge is core beliefs. So dealing with my symptoms is like picking the fruits, and the root is still there. Someone who is willing to do inner child work, someone who is able to deal with belief system, someone who is able to deal with somatic awareness. So seek such therapy. Meditation is also another way you can begin to unravel, because it allows you to really search the very depth of your being, the very core of your being, and just see patterns. So an experience happens and you just see yourself spiraling down the rabbit hole of all the negative thought patterns and emotions. Sit with it in meditation. Ask yourself, okay, so this incident that happened, this person that spoke to me so rudely, what do I feel about it? And then by somatic awareness, be bodily aware of what it is you're feeling. Is your heart racing? Are your teeth, your jaws, is it set? Your fist, is it clenched? Do you have your like a knot in your belly? Okay, so all of these bodily experiences, what emotion is that? Okay, and if I feel like this about this person who spoke to me very rudely, what do I think about it? Behind my feeling, what's the thought behind it? Okay, I'm hungry. Okay, behind the thought, that means this person took me for granted. Okay, if he took me for granted, what kind of person gets taken for granted? Okay, somebody who is not that important. And what kind of person is not that important? Someone who is not good enough. Oh, so this is the core belief that has been driving this emotion. It could still have also been the same. Someone talked to you rudely and you felt this person must have had a nasty day. I wish you well. The same experience, different perception, and I tell you, different outcomes. So learning to sit with yourself in meditation, even journaling, you can also do the same in journaling. Then there's something called the bottom-up approach. Bottom-up approach is just what I just explained. You sit with the feeling. From the feeling, you dig into the thought. And if I have such thoughts, what do I believe about myself? Or what do I make it mean about myself? Then, of course, prayer. There's nothing that cannot be subjected to the power of God. There's nothing that cannot be subjected to the ingenuity and the all-sufficiency of God to fix, to mend, to repair, to restore, to renew in the place of prayer. So if you are someone who has had such negative beliefs and you've seen it play out in your life time and time again, it's time to submit it. To submit it to God. Yield all of the negative core belief to God. Ask Him to impute superior, predestined, high level belief systems in you, and see to it that it becomes the truth that plays out in your life. Okay, so this is the bottom-up approach that I was talking about. The truth is, trauma will trigger physical responses, and every subsequent experience is almost like a reenactment of the traumatic experience we had in childhood. So many times it will shut down the higher functioning parts of the brain that are working rationally. So you're not thinking rationally, you're just drowned in a sea of emotion. In a sea of emotion that, if you're not intentional to start sifting through and see what emotion links to what thoughts, one can just get carried away into that rabbit hole of depression, or one can just get into that florid reach. Then someone is breaking bottles and poking people. It just started with the fact that the higher functioning part, which is the prefrontal cortex, is shut down. And for some people, it could be that, okay, the emotion is so overwhelming, I just can't deal with it. Then they go look for something to smoke. What happened? The prefrontal cortex, the higher functioning part, is shut down. and then they go into fight and flight response, and they just, in survival mode, nobody is really thinking rationally. We just want to survive. So the bottom up approach, which can be done by your therapy or can be done in as little as what I just explained, every experience that happens, give yourself at least 20 minutes before you take an action, except it looks like somebody's life is at stake, and many times it is not. It is our mind, the fight and flight response, that make it seem like that. So you're sitting really with it and feel all of the emotions bodily, and try and identify, what emotion do I feel? Okay, am I hungry about this? Am I sad about this? Am I shocked about this? Am I scared about this? Okay, and if this makes me so scared, what are the thoughts I'm having concerning this fear? Okay, and if I am so scared about this because I believe that my future is in jeopardy, okay, what do I make this mean about me? Okay, I make it mean about me that if I don't achieve this kind of grade, then I am not worth much, because at home it's been programmed in my subconscious that I have to be perfection, I have to be A plus or nothing. Okay, so I then dig it back. Is it true? Then I begin to challenge it. Is it really true? As a child of God, and as somebody who is operating with the prefrontal cortex, that when I don't get an A plus in all my subjects, that I'm not really worth much. Is it really true? And then I begin to challenge such core beliefs and begin to embrace the truth. So what is the truth? The truth is that even if I get a B minus in this, I can still put in more effort to get an A plus in another one. And even if I get a B minus in this, I know that I gave it all my best, at least all the best I could muster for that particular exam. Okay, so now to just buttress a little on that need for prayer. The truth is, human being is tripartite. We are body, soul, and spirit. The act of prayer is your spirit man communicating with God. So the soul are the seat of our mind, our will, and emotion, which is where most mental health challenges originate from. It's like the intersect between the body and the spirit. So what eventually you see playing out when people say the spiritual controls the physical is true. So what you eventually see playing out in the physical realm is what your soul man has allowed to be transported from your spirit man to your physical realm. Now, when we're talking about core belief and we say in the core subconscious is deep in the depth of your soul, whatever it is you're going to use to change it, while you do all of the intentional self-therapy, for the truth to eventually become life. You know, when it says, and the word was made flesh and dwelt among us, for the truth of the superior predestined belief system that is embedded in the word of God to become your reality, as far as I'm concerned, it must pass through your spirit man. That is where the place of prayer comes in. For all the therapy you want to do, especially for medical health struggles that has gone on for decades and is deeply rooted in negative core beliefs, please incorporate the component of prayer. Don't just do therapy and sideline God. The social sciences alone can only get us so far without the place of God, if you keep in mind that human being is tripartite. So social sciences will just deal with our soul and our body and leaves the spirit component. Truth is, whatever happens in the physical has already been settled in the spirit. So give room to God in the place of prayer, in the place of submitting your own will, your mind, your emotion, which is your soul, to the spirit influence of the God of all grace. You understand? And when we use the analogy of the potter and the clay, so my soul, my mind, my will, my emotion is the clay, then I bring it to God, the potter, in the place of prayer and ask him, mold it in accordance with your will, manipulate all things to your good counsel. Please don't neglect the place of prayer. Okay, I think that summarizes what we have to do today. So seek therapy, journal, meditate, incorporate somatic awareness into your life, then incorporate prayer and watch God begin to transform all that has not served you and has not served your own destiny and growth. So watch him begin to transform it into something better. So thank you for staying with me to the end of this presentation, and I wish you a wonderful day. Be well. Bye.